It'll never happen to me.
Mid-July. Early hours of the morning on a rural A road, a car was being driven home from work at a local factory. This car contained a husband and wife and a friend who had just finished their shift. Travelling in the opposite direction was a car being driven by an 18-year-old who had just left his girlfriend's house. A few miles prior to the collision, this driver had overtaken another vehicle at speed, with the passenger of that vehicle commenting to the effect, "There's an accident waiting to happen." A few miles further on, they came across what they described as a scene of complete devastation. The two cars had collided head-on in what was obviously a high-speed collision, with the drivers of both cars having very serious injuries. I was the on-call lead investigator for serious and fatal collisions that night, and I got the call at about 2:45 a.m. All I was told was the location and that the collision was being treated as a potential fatal RTC. After going to my office to pick up my kit and a car, I made my way to the scene. As I was en route, I could hear the updates from officers at the scene. Then came the update I prayed I wouldn't hear. Life pronounced extinct. Despite the best efforts of paramedics, they were unable to save the life of the driver of the car heading home from work. When I arrived at the collision, I was met with a scene that, as had been described, was one of utter devastation. The car the deceased had been driving had no roof, having been cut off by the fire service. One of the front wheels was some way from the vehicle, and the damage to this vehicle was extensive. The vehicle being driven by the 18-year-old was in a worse state, with the engine having been ripped clean out and was 100 metres or so further down the road. There were vehicle parts and debris spread across several hundred metres of that road. The other driver had also been taken to hospital, and it was feared that he too would succumb to his injuries, such were the severity of them. The stretch of road where the collision occurred was subject to a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit and had a crash barrier on one side and a high bank and hedge on the other. The lanes were separated by a solid white line system indicating no overtaking due to the road layout and lack of visibility of the road ahead. The driver that had completed the overtake of the witnesses a few miles before the collision had continued to drive at speed, overtaking another vehicle in contravention of the solid white line at the exact same time the vehicle heading home from work was coming in the opposite direction, leaving it nowhere to go, and the two vehicles met head-on. The force of the impact was so great that both the speedometers on the vehicles froze at the speed each vehicle was doing at the point of impact. The vehicle containing the deceased was shown to have been travelling at just over 50 miles per hour, while the other vehicle was shown to have been travelling at approximately 90 miles an hour, almost double the legal speed limit for the road in question. The occupants of the victim's car didn't stand a chance. They were just travelling home from work. Excess speed was without doubt the major contributory factor in this collision, and it didn't need to be this way. The offending driver did survive and was convicted of causing death by dangerous driving and subsequently sent to prison for his decision-making that night. That's nothing compared with the life sentence the family of the innocent driver that lost his life that night have to suffer, never seeing their loved one again. The saying "speed kills" was never truer than in this case. Don't think it'll never happen to you.